A done deal. Mateo Kovacic signs for Manchester City. We've also got news of Sandro Tonali attracting the interest of Newcastle, so much so that allegedly the Magpies may have already put in a bid for the Italian playmaker. Declan Rice's second bid from Arsenal has been rejected. Hakim Ziyech, Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly, and now Callum Hudson-Odoi, all seemingly on the verge of joining Saudi Arabian clubs. Arsenal interested in Harvey Barnes, and Liverpool will not go for Kefren Sharam until after the Under-21s European Championships. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Another all-new news video in store for us today, talking about some of the biggest talking points in the world of football right now. And of course, the main one that broke today was the official I say official confirmation. We are still waiting a medical before official confirmation, but it does seem like it's heading in the way of a complete done deal in sense of Mateo Kovacic will be switching Chelsea for Manchester City for the forthcoming season. We'll get into that as well as talking about all the talking points that I said at the top of the show. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to, throughout the stream, like the stream and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. I also encourage you all to get involved in the comments section, whether it's stuff that I am talking about or whether it's stuff that you guys want to talk about. Anything at all in that comment section will make for great and interesting reading, I'm sure. But without further ado, let's get on with the stream. Let's get on with talking about these big potential transfer stories and big stories in the world of football. Anyway, we're starting off with Mateo Kovacic. It was not exactly a secret on this that Manchester City were interested. It's not exactly a secret that they moved quickly on this deal. It's not exactly a secret that now it is pretty much done and dusted. We are waiting and pending a medical before official confirmation is revealed. But Mateo Kovacic does seem extremely likely to be a Manchester City player and Pep's latest addition to his squad in that midfield area in particular. Fabrizio Romano comes out today with exclusive. Mateo Kovacic joins Manchester City from Chelsea. Fee agreed and done deal. Here we go. Agreement between clubs just reached for £30 million fee. Personal terms agreed 2 weeks ago. Kovacic only wanted Manchester City. Medicals in the next days. New midfielder for Pep. And I remember talking about this when it first came about. And I said that with Gundogan leaving, obviously there was talk about Declan Rice potentially being thrown into the mix as well. Calvin Phillips, question marks over his future. Bernardo Silva, question marks over his future. I said that I'm mainly looking at Gundogan here as the outgoing that Kovacic will replace. And I think for Kovacic's age of 28, 29, is it? I think for Kovacic's ability, he is very similar and very experienced in that way, similar to Ilkay Gundogan. Not completely on his level, don't get me wrong. I still would take Gundogan any day over Kovacic. But for that price of 30 million for the type of player you're getting in terms of a player that is going to be good at retaining the ball that we've seen, good at making late runs into the box, can score important goals when necessary. Not exactly the best of finishers by any means, but can still pop up with the odd goal here and there, can work on his finishing, can obviously get better in this Man City team. But most of all, like I say, it's about his ball retention and his technical ability and the way that he can ball carry. And that's going to be important for trying to break down low blocks of defenses, which City find themselves against constantly. He's going to be good at just carrying the ball forward and trying to open up space. And he's going to be good at retaining possession. And he's going to be versatile enough that he can drop into different areas, perform different roles, and just be versatile enough to be a good use for Pep Guardiola in the next few years or so. That's what I see from Kovacic going forward, and that's why I see that they brought him, because, like I say, for the money, for what he offers and what he brings to a team, not just in terms of experience and everything, but in terms of what he can bring in terms of his ability and his talent. That is what I see happening with Kovacic going forward. He replaces Gundogan. It's not a complete like-for-like change, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I still find it a very good move by Man City for the price, for the ability that he shows, for what he's got in his locker. I think that it's a very, very good move. And yeah, I mean, again, Chelsea shift on another player. That's another outgoing of Chelsea. We'll get onto more of the outgoings of Chelsea a little later, in which they will acquire a lot of money from these sales. But for City, they strengthen, they reinforce, and again they go again. And it's going to be interesting to see how Kovacic fits in with Pep Guardiola. If Pep Guardiola can even make him go from strength to strength in terms of maybe growing him still. Like, I know he's 28, 29, but is there another level that Kovacic can hit in this Man City side? You would imagine so, with obviously being around better players, under a better manager, and of course having a bit more stability within that Man City team. Of course, he'll have to suffer with a little bit of the Pep roulette kind of situation, in which he'll play for a few games, randomly drop out for a few games, be put back in for a few games. That kind of change, keeping things fresh, keeping things challenging for the opposition, shall we say. But it'll be very interesting nonetheless to see how Kovacic can fit in with this Man City squad. And again, like I say, I think this is a very good move by City for all of the reasons that I've stated above. And I think that ideally, this is only going to be the beginning for Man City. We wait and see, of course, on the Declan Rice situation, if City are genuinely going to get involved in that. There was talk yesterday that after Kovacic, they're going to make Josko Gvardiol their main priority. And we did talk about Gvardiol a few days ago, and we said that he would be perfect in this Man City squad for what they are currently trying to do in terms of this switch in formation, in terms of the three at the back. I think when you look at it in that sense, three at the back, two in midfield. You've got the four behind the striker. You've got two wingers. You've got the two midfielders that can operate, whether it's dropping back a little bit more, whether it's pushing forward. You've got Kovacic going to be lining up alongside KDB in that sense. KDB is the main playmaker. Kovacic as I guess the ball winner in that situation, the ball winner, the carrier, keeping things simple and making runs from deep in that kind of Gundogan role. It looks very, very threatening from Manchester City, even more so than what it did previously. And it was already very threatening then because, of course, they are the treble winners. But if they can get Gvardiol as well to strengthen up that back line, Kovacic to strengthen up that midfield, and then maybe one or two other signings as well, maybe there will be a shot maybe at them getting Declan Rice. Maybe there is going to be someone else coming through the door at Manchester City going forward, because obviously there may be a few outgoings this summer in terms of maybe Kyle Walker. We know about that he's shall we say, attracting interest. We know that Bernardo Silva's attracting interest from elsewhere as well. Tell me it's a transfer window without telling me it's a transfer window, and you'd say that Bernardo Silva might be leaving Manchester City again. Riyad Mahrez attracting interest from Saudi Arabia. There's a couple of others as well, like I say, that have got question marks over their future, as Pep likes to keep things fresh, likes to keep things rotated. So again, there might be actually a few more incomings from Manchester City, and they'll go from strength to strength, I'm sure. Strengthening up the spine of the team looks to be a priority, but there could also be a winger or two that may be coming through the door, maybe a couple of youngsters as well, maybe for the future of this City squad. There's a few question marks over City, but obviously, with it being City, with it being Pep Guardiola, those question marks are interesting to think about, but at the same time, they're not as much of a gamble as you would say any other club, because you would fully back Pep to make the right decisions. You'd fully back City to make the right decisions. So going forward, of course, you've got a City side that will continue to grow, to continue to evolve, and continue to get even more scarier. And that is terrifying. And like I say, Kovacic signing strengthens them. It's not maybe the perfect signing in the world or most perfect signing in the world for Man City, or, you know, the flashiest name or the most starry sort of player that they could have gone for. But at the same time, it is what it is, and City seemingly have got their player, of course, pending a medical, but it does seem like Mateo Kovacic, it's only a matter of time before he is completely unveiled in the kit of Manchester City and as a official Manchester City player. Moving on, Newcastle. This one intrigued me yesterday. This one very, very much intrigued me yesterday, because this is a player that I rate highly, and this is a player I really like. Sandro Tonali allegedly has been attracting the interest of Newcastle United, so much so that apparently yesterday, according to James Horncastle of The Athletic, Newcastle had put in a big €50 million bid for the Italian midfielder. Horncastle takes to Twitter to say that Newcastle made €50 million offer for AC Milan midfielder Sandro Tonali. Chelsea retain a firm interest in the player, who is set to captain Italy at the Under-21 European Championships. Now, of course, those European Championships kick off today, so maybe on a few of these deals, and we'll get on to Liverpool's one a little later, maybe on a few of these deals, it might take some time. It might not go according to plan completely, and it might actually be best for some of these players and some of these teams to focus elsewhere, or focus on the European Championships, rather than try and get them whilst they're fresh and whilst they're still playing and got their mind set on this tournament that's coming up this summer. But if this is to be the case, if Newcastle do genuinely hold firm interest, I mean, it does make sense, because obviously we know that Newcastle are going to be after midfielders. We already know that they've been linked with James Maddison, and that saga isn't quite over yet. Tottenham seemingly are in pole position to sign him, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything, especially given that it's Tottenham, and we know that they've bottled transfers in the past. We also know that they've been interested in Nicolo Barella. Now, again, those two midfielders are very different, but we know that Newcastle are after two midfielders, and that's been the kind of reports and rumours that are coming out of the club, that they hold interest and want two types of midfielders, one more attacking and one a bit more defensive. In Tonali's case, I guess you could say that he ticks both of those boxes, because he is very versatile, and I think that's what has attracted Newcastle to him. He's, in my opinion, mainly a playmaker, mainly a deep line playmaker, sits a bit more defensive, but can just pop the ball about, turn defense into attack. He can press, he can win the ball back, but mainly he is a deep line playmaker. I think he's got good creativity and can also just keep the ball moving, keep things going, ticking over in that midfield, and obviously can transition defense into attack very quickly. The overall kind of premise of this is that maybe he sits more defensively, and it allows Bruno Guimaraes to venture further forward and to be a bit more free, and to be a bit more attacking. That could potentially be the case here. And of course, when we talked about Nicolo Barella before, we did mention that that might be the case again, that it could complement the likes of Joe Linton to be more box to box and allow Guimaraes to be that more attacking midfielder out of the trio. In my opinion, this will be a quality move. This will be a quality move by Newcastle United to get this deal done and dusted. Tonali for me is a fantastic signing, a fantastic player with still room to grow. It took a year or so to get used to AC Milan and everything, but over these past couple of years, he really was a key vocal point in AC Milan winning the Serie A title last year. He's been a key player ever since. He's, of course, helped AC Milan to get to the semi-final of the Champions League this season. I think he's been a brilliant player for them, and I think that this could be a very good move for Newcastle if they manage to get him. Obviously, with Champions League football on the horizon, you'd imagine that it's a time to boost their squad, maybe test the water and show a bit of ambition. And that's what they have done. The likes of James Maddison, the likes of Nicolo Barella, and now Sandro Tonali, all linked with Newcastle, show that there are times to be optimistic and excited if you are, of course, a Newcastle fan. And for me, like I say, I really rate this player. I really like this player. And of course, I think he's, 21, 22 years of age now? Fantastic talent for the here and now, and of course for future years to come. You're looking at a midfielder that is going to be set in stone pretty much, or at least a midfielder that is going to be at that club set in stone for the next 8 years or so. Max. Well, I say max. Around about the 8 years mark. Like, depending on obviously who they bring in, depending on if he actually works out or not. I would suspect he strongly work out. I would suspect that he will strongly work out with the rest of the Newcastle players. That Newcastle midfield in particular will complement him as well as he complements them. I just see it working out brilliantly. I think it's a good move by Newcastle. I think it strengthens their midfield in depth and quality. And I, for one, like I say, really, really like this move if it does come to fruition. We'll wait and see if it does, of course. There are also reports that allegedly Newcastle's budget isn't exactly as big as what we originally thought it would be. So I think they're going to have to manage that kind of budget. Obviously, with the other midfielders they are linked with, do they sacrifice them in terms of Tonali? Is Tonali going to be plan A? Is it going to be Maddison? We'll wait and see because, like I say, there are other factors to consider in this move, and it is going to be a difficult move to get done anyway. But at the same time, like I say, if they can pull it off, if Tonali can make the switch from Milan to Newcastle, it would be a fantastic move, in my opinion, for Sandro Tonali. And I, for one, obviously from the outside looking in, would be very excited and very interested in seeing how Tonali adapts to the Premier League, how he will do at Newcastle, and how Eddie Howe can get the best out of him and can also get the best out of his other midfielders and the rest of the squad as well, with Tonali's influence and input in that starting lineup. But it does look very promising if you're a Newcastle. It does look very exciting and optimistic. Lots of rumours, lots flying around about Newcastle, and some big and ambitious signings at that as well. And I don't think a few years ago, if you'd have said that Newcastle would have a lot of money, Newcastle would be after these types of players, I don't think they would have believed you if you'd said that to them several years ago. But here they are with the money, with showing signs of ambition, and of course, with Champions League football set to return to St James's Park next season. It looks very exciting for Newcastle. But we'll wait and see on their transfer business. I think a lot of what we can expect from Newcastle next season and from where they can go relies on their transfer business. And of course, we'll wait and see on all of that. Next up, Declan Rice. Declan Rice, the saga continues. The saga drags on. Yesterday, Arsenal allegedly put in a second bid. Not allegedly, they did put in a second bid. Arsenal put in a second bid for Declan Rice, worth up to £90 million, allegedly. Rejected by West Ham. According to David Ornstein, West Ham turned down second Arsenal bid for Declan Rice, worth up to £90 million, £75 million plus £15 million in add-ons, as pursuit of 24-year-old West Ham captain continues. Arsenal talks with Chelsea for Kai Havertz ongoing. 24-year-old German international preference is to join the Gunners from Chelsea. Now, we'll get on to Havertz a little later. But the overall premise is that a second bid has been rejected by West Ham for Declan Rice. What the hell is going on with Arsenal? Like, I get it. It's negotiations. 100% I get it. You don't really want to pay the full price unless you genuinely feel like you're getting a bargain. You feel like you can probably whittle down some of that asking price, that big transfer fee. You feel like you can maybe compromise with West Ham somewhere along the way. But Jesus Christ, you've been negotiating this for like 6 months now. And I know that most of it has been on the players' side, but at the same time, you knew what West Ham were looking for. We all sort of knew the kind of figure and the kind of area, I guess you'd say, that they were looking for with West Ham. I'm baffled. I'm baffled that it's taking this long. I'm baffled that Arsenal are seemingly playing the long game here and trying to whittle it down. But on the flip side, West Ham are hoping that Manchester City come along and they try and get a bidding war. West Ham are playing the long game too. And it obviously works for West Ham because they will eventually get a bidding war if it drags on any further. You know, they could wait for the Saudi ownership of Manchester United to take hold. They could wait for Manchester City to get involved in this deal. You know, there's a fair amount to think about with this deal, and Arsenal really need to get this deal wrapped up, and I'm surprised it's taking this long. I understand that obviously they had to wait till the end of the season and they had to wait for West Ham to play in the Europa Conference League final, but they knew all the details. They knew. And for me, I don't get it. I don't get why they're playing with fire here. I don't get why they risk losing out on a big transfer target like Rice, who I've said time and time again, goes into that Arsenal midfield and maybe the best midfielder there right off the bat, gels and fits in with that midfield perfectly, fits in with what Mikel Arteta wants to, how he wants to play, what he wants to play, and everything along those lines. In my opinion, it's the perfect player, perfect system for him, perfect move for Declan Rice. But at the same time, there are other suitors out there that may be circling the situation the longer that Arsenal leave it. I don't get why they're messing around. I don't get why they're biding their time over this. I don't get why they aren't just going in for the kill first and foremost straight away and getting this deal wrapped up before a club like Manchester City or even a club like Manchester United has the opportunity to swoop in at the 11th hour and take him right out of Arsenal's grasp. I just don't understand Arsenal playing with fire here. I could have even told you that that bid wouldn't even make it, because we all know that what the kind of area and the kind of structure of the deal that West Ham are looking for. And that overall is their entire purpose. It's going to be the structure. So this whole bidding thing and putting in these structures that West Ham are not liking, they should have already known that from the negotiations, surely. Surely that should have been the case. But we'll wait and see, obviously, if a solution can be found between Arsenal and West Ham. I'm going to say it will. I'm going to say that West Ham will eventually sell Declan Rice to Arsenal. But they are really playing with fire here, especially with, obviously, Mateo Kovacic being wrapped up with Man City. If they do turn their attention to Guardiola, then great. But at the same time, Declan Rice could still be an option for City. And obviously with City looking at maybe selling a few of their key players in the likes of maybe Bernardo Silva does go, maybe Riyad Mahrez does go to Saudi Arabia. And let's face it, Saudi Arabia are spending big money. So maybe there might be a big sale there. and with one or two other players seemingly being sold as well by City, we wait and see, of course, what happens with City going forward. But they definitely could swoop in on this Declan Rice situation if Arsenal are not careful. Jordan Hyman, hey brother, how are you doing today, sir? Good to see you in the stream. So yeah, Arsenal need to get moving on this. Arsenal definitely need to get moving. I don't understand what they're playing around at. I don't understand why they're playing with fire here. It just baffles me that after months of negotiations, making progress step by step, knowing what kind of structure, what kind of fee West Ham are looking for, they are still messing around with this. And even more to the point, knowing that Man City are seemingly involved and monitoring the situation, knowing that Man United could be taken over at any point and the Saudi money could come pouring in at any moment. And we do know that United have been interested in this deal in the past. It baffles me. It baffles me that Arsenal are still messing around and playing around with this transfer fee. So we'll wait and see on that one, of course. Moving on up. We'll sit with Arsenal for our next story. According to Ben Jacobs, allegedly, Arsenal are involved in maybe Harvey Barnes. Now, we talked about Harvey Barnes a few days ago in a video that I did regarding him and James Maddison. Apparently, Tottenham were very much interested and attempted a £50 million swoop for both of them. Not each, for both of them. 25 million in excess apiece. Allegedly, Arsenal are monitoring this Harvey Barnes situation. Tottenham also interested, as we know. But allegedly, Arsenal are monitoring the situation as well. Now, obviously, between Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, which seems to be accelerating at a very fast pace, Romeo Lavia, Jurrien Timber, which we talked about yesterday as well, and now Harvey Barnes, it seems that there is going to be a massive, or at least a potential massive splash of the cash as far as what Arsenal are concerned. And there seems to be a lot of transfer activity that may happen with Arsenal if they can get these deals over the line. But it's all about whether or not they can get these deals over the line, because like I said, with the Declan Rice situation, they dragged this out for long enough. Who's to say that they are going to do the same for those other targets as well? And let's face it, Declan Rice is dragging. Kai Havertz is accelerating at a pretty quicker pace, I'd say. But it seems to be because Arsenal are the only ones to seemingly want to pay the kind of fee that Chelsea are after. But we'll get more into that a little later. Lavia could be a big signing as well. There were reports yesterday that it could be a big transfer record for Southampton. And as we know, the transfer record currently stands at over 75 million for Virgil van Dijk. So that could be massive for Arsenal if that is to be the case. Whether you believe that or not remains to be seen. And then there's also, like I say, Jurrien Timber, which could be a very quality and very good signing as far as what Arsenal are concerned. Like I say, Timber's been attracting a lot of interest from elsewhere these past couple of years. Manchester United in particular. We'll wait and see on that one. But again, that does come from a reliable source in David Ornstein, who, if you've been following David Ornstein, is like top tier. Like, I think Fabrizio is probably top tier, but he is probably top tier in terms of people to follow, people to look at. And he is genuinely the best, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Harvey Barnes would add some much needed depth and quality to the wing positions. He covers Gabriel Martinelli brilliantly. I think he can also be versatile enough to maybe play as a right winger for Bukayo Saka. And I think that right wing position definitely needs some strengthening, because obviously if Saka isn't playing very well, if Saka does need a rest, which, as you saw towards the end of the season, may have been the case on both fronts, obviously that can be arranged. And obviously, with there being Champions League football for the Arsenal this season, there's going to be more high profile and more physically challenging games, shall we say. And it's going to be about squad rotation and how Mikel Arteta handles that kind of squad. So for me, Harvey Barnes does make sense. If they can sign him, does make sense in terms of strengthening up those positions, giving the wingers something to think about. And like I say, I think it does help and aid the likes of Martinelli and Saka so that they're not playing week in, week out constantly, 2 to 3 games a week. So we're waiting to see if there is genuine legs in this Harvey Barnes situation. And sticking with Arsenal for our last story, David Ornstein again on this today. Arsenal close to an agreement with Chelsea to sign Kai Havertz for a fee in the region of £65 million. Talks ongoing to finalise structure, instalments and add-ons. Personal terms in place and subject to deal being done. Medical will be scheduled. Now again, like I said slightly earlier, this deal seems to be going ahead simply for the reason that Arsenal are seemingly prepared to pay the money that Chelsea want. Like I say, we've seen that Havertz has been linked with the likes of Real Madrid and Manchester City in the past, but obviously no deal has been agreed there. It's been Arsenal that are the ones that have grabbed him and took him into pole position for themselves. And I've just gave my thoughts on Kai Havertz across this transfer window, and I've said that, this is a player that, in my opinion, I'm not too keen on. I'm not an Arsenal fan, but I wouldn't be too keen on him arriving at all. Like, I see the potential. I saw what he had at Bayer Leverkusen. I see the issues that he suffered with at Chelsea that have been not necessarily his fault, but it's too much of a gamble for me. It's too much of a gamble for me to be paying this amount of money, particularly on this kind of player. A player that, in my opinion, works best playing off a striker. In my opinion, needs someone to work off and to work around and can have a bit of a free role. Someone who's got a bit of creativity on his side, but doesn't really show it on a consistent enough basis, or doesn't really show a lot of anything on a consistent enough basis. He's not consistent enough in all areas of the pitch. For me to spend this amount of money on this kind of player is a massive gamble. But I caveat that with the fact that there must be a player in there somewhere, because the likes of Pep Guardiola and Carlo Ancelotti wanted him. They just didn't want to pay the fee. So there must be some sort of player in there that they've spotted, and it must work for Arsenal in some way. And I did say that a clean slate for Havertz might do him the world of good, and it works out for Chelsea as well, because again, they get a massive fee for this player. They sell Kai Havertz for 65. If they sell him for like 65 million or 60 million or whatever the installment figures are, they obviously sell Kovacic. They sell 4 players to Saudi Arabia, or however many players it is. Chelsea are going to be absolutely balling in money if they already are not. So they've got a lot of players to sell of Chelsea, and I would expect some big waves to be made by the Blues going forward in terms of incomings going forward. So again, we wait to see the confirmation on this Kai Havertz situation, but this one does seem to be moving very quickly, and it does seem to be actually tied up faster than this Declan Rice situation. So we'll wait and see on that one. But of course, according to David Ornstein, it does seem to be moving at a very quick pace, and it seems only a matter of time before Kai Havertz is unveiled as a new Arsenal addition to their side. So, like I say, you can like it, you can hate it. I'm personally against it, but it's not my club, so I'm not necessarily too bothered. We'll move on to Chelsea. Good segue into Chelsea. We've constantly talked about Chelsea and the players that have been linked with a move away from Stamford Bridge, and how they may be going for a new life in Saudi Arabia, and how the Saudi Arabian influence is definitely taking its hold on this transfer window. Well, there might be more. Kante's already gone from Chelsea. That was more of a contract expiry, granted, but he's gone. Hakim Ziyech seems to be the latest. He seems to be the latest to have agreed to move away. That one should be done and dusted very soon. Edouard Mendy, gone. He's going to Saudi Arabia as well. He's going to be following in the footsteps of Kalidou Koulibaly. I think they're going to the same club. And the club's name does escape me, but I think they're going to the same club, so they'll be going together. And Callum Hudson-Odoi is another one. Yet again, it's another deadwood player for Chelsea that is on the move. If fans were angry beforehand that's obviously Todd Boehly and Chelsea making Saudi Arabian connections and tempting them into taking some of their deadwood players and the players they don't want, then Callum Hudson-Odoi is yet another one that they're not going to like. This is a player that's been on the outskirts of Chelsea for a while, had a couple of loan moves here and there, was rated as one of the next big things to come out of the Chelsea academy. Some were even saying better than Bukayo Saka of Arsenal. That obviously isn't the case. And proof that it isn't the case is that he is surplus to requirement at Chelsea, so much so that they've tempted Saudi Arabia into being interested in him. I'd imagine that he probably does go. I'd imagine they move him on. And again, they move him on for quite a reasonably handsome fee. And I'll say it again, it's smart on Chelsea's part. It's not exactly breaking the rules. It's exploiting the rules, if anything. There's nothing completely wrong against it. It does seem a bit odd, and it does... It's not exactly like fishy or a bit skeptical or anything, but like I say, it's smart. It's smart that this is happening. It's smart that obviously no one has found this kind of loophole before. No one's kind of exploited this kind of ruling before. I wouldn't be surprised if the Premier League are taking a look at this kind of thing and maybe trying to maybe not stop it completely, because at the end of the day, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they will look to maybe just dampen it down a little bit. You know what I mean? Maybe not halt it to the full extent, but maybe just calm it down if this is to be the case. And again, there's a ton of players that have been linked. I know we talked about Heung-min Son yesterday. I mean, it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case, that he's going to be leaving, but everybody has their price, and maybe Tottenham may actually think, you know what, we might not get a better deal. It's a lot of money they're offering. We may as well take it. Like I said, Riyad Mahrez has been linked with a move to Saudi Arabia. There might also be a few other players across the Premier League that have been linked, but no more so than Chelsea, who have decided to exploit that kind of ruling and use their connections to their advantage. It's smart. They're going to get a lot of money from it, so they're going to get a lot of reward from these player sales. And for me, like I say, it's very smart on their part. Very smart on their part to be using these kinds of connections that they have. They're going to get a lot of money from this, and I would expect them to make some big waves in this transfer window going forward in terms of incomings. Maybe Moises Caicedo, now that deal does accelerate with obviously everything that's coming in. Maybe they look at other players as well to come in. Obviously, we know that Nicholas Jackson's on the verge of being completed as well. And maybe and obviously we know that Christopher Nkunku's been confirmed for a while, but that was made official yesterday. A new goalkeeper definitely is an area that Chelsea have looked to strengthen. They'll obviously need to strengthen in defence with obviously the amount of outgoings they've had in that kind of area. More midfielders, of course, with the amount of outgoings seemingly in that position as well. We'll wait and see what happens with Chelsea, but it is going to be very interesting to watch from the Blues going forward, if it hasn't been already this past year. I know it's been a bit of a circus down at Stamford Bridge, but it could get even more intriguing and exciting from afar going forward. Next story, Khéphren Thuram. Only a little bit of an update on this one. Not really a massive one. Khéphren Thuram allegedly is going to be deciding his future after the European Championships, the Under-21 European Championships. Liverpool apparently will not make a move for him until after that tournament. Now, why it's taken so long, I don't know. Why they are now putting it off from the Championships, I don't know. I understand maybe you want to kind of respect the player and maybe give him some breathing space and maybe give him some time to focus on obviously the championships that are taking place, well, starting today, should I say, in this. And I know that obviously the French are big favourites along with the likes of England and Spain for this tournament. But at the same time, it does sort of frustrate that maybe, just maybe, Liverpool are planning to hold off on maybe going after Thuram any further until after the championships. Will other teams have that same amount of respect, or will Liverpool be playing catch up? We'll wait and see. But yeah, I'm kind of bored now. I just want Liverpool to wrap this up. Obviously, we know that Liverpool are wanting to try and get the business or their transfer business done, but this could be until like the middle of July, depending on obviously how far France get in this competition before obviously the Under-21s European Championships are over. So we'll wait and see if obviously anything does come about of this story going forward. But it does seem that Liverpool's interest has somewhat cooled because of the tournament. But again, we'll wait and see on that one because it depends on what Liverpool decide to do. It depends on if other clubs are going to make their move for him whilst he's at the tournament or anything along those lines. Of course, things can be always changed and talked about. But of course, with reports coming out saying that personal terms have been agreed, surely it's mainly about whether or not Liverpool can agree a fee with Lille right now going forward. I'm going to say Lille. I think it's Lille. Weird. But yeah, we'll wait and see on that one. We'll wait and see if obviously that is to be the case or not. Liverpool, we said yesterday, were looking at stepping up their approach in terms of their strengthening of midfield and their, of course, Nice. Why did I say Lille? Nice. I'm an idiot. Why did I say Lille? I was like, no, it's Lille. No, it's Nice. No, Lille. I'll go with Lille. No, it's Nice. We know that, like I say, we talked about yesterday about Liverpool maybe stepping up their recruitment this week. We said that Liverpool were looking to maybe take their summer transfer business to the next level. And Kefren Thuram seemed to be the likely option, given that that's been the major story this for the past few weeks or so, that Liverpool were heavily interested in. But with obviously these European Championships taking place, and obviously Liverpool knew about that, so whether those reports were suggesting maybe Liverpool are going after someone else, or maybe these reports stating that Liverpool are going to wait till after these championships is false or not, remains to be seen. But this has been obviously the story that's mainly been dominating Liverpool and their transfer business going forward. So we'll wait and see all on that, if that is to be the case or not. But like I say, I'll reiterate my point on Thuram again. I, for one, am very excited by this prospect. I like this player, what he has shown so far, what he is all about, what I've read about him, what I've heard about him, everything along those lines. And also, I like the potential that he's showing for the future. I think this could be a very good signing, and I'm very much interested in if Liverpool can get the job done and dusted on this potential transfer. We'll wait and see if it does materialize into anything, but I think this is the kind of player that Liverpool definitely need going forward, and as a result, definitely lacked this past season. We'll wait and see if this materializes. But as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of any of the news stories that I talked about in this video? Do feel free to hit the like button on the way out if you enjoyed this live stream. Do feel free to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you want to see more content like this or enjoyed the video as a whole, both ones always and very greatly appreciated. And I also encourage you to continue to leave your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, in the chat, in the comment section. And I'm sure it'll make it interesting and great reading, whether it's stuff that I talked about or whether it's stuff that you guys want to talk about for a future video. Anything and everything will be greatly appreciated, and I'm sure, like I said, will make for great and interesting reading. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks live stream. I will see and speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever the hell it may be.